Hi, welcome to Ask the CBO. In this week's video, we're going to talk about how we did on our annual fiscal audit. And I have a guest with us today. Don't normally do this, but it makes sense that we talk to our auditor directly. So Charles Raibley from Crowe LLP, who's been working with Mount Diablo for a number of years, is here to join us. So Charles, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and hope to shed a little light on the results of the audit and how the audit process works.
Perfect. We've got some real simple questions today, but first of all, what's the purpose of a school district audit?
Yeah, so it's the purpose is to give an opinion as to whether the financial statements and the compliance for certain elements are, well, in the financial statement side, we're giving an opinion as to whether the financials are fairly stated. And on the compliance side, we're looking to be able to give an opinion as to whether the district complied with all the major components of federal and state requirements. And we're doing it all because the education code says we have to.
Okay. And for example, like some of the things that you take a look at and what that process is, I mean, do you come in for a couple of months or is it longer than that?
Now, the process is, I like to use the term iterative, and it builds throughout the year as we develop and assess the risks that are involved in the financial statements. And it's a year-round process, and takes place in different phases for the majority of it, but we discuss challenges the district's facing throughout the year, questions on accounting treatment for different areas as you encounter them. And we have kind of three major phases that we conduct the audit in. So our kind of an interim planning phase in right now, February, March timeframe, and then into May and June, we look through our interim audit, we call it, which is where we like to audit our state compliance and federal compliance, and then reestablish our understanding of the internal controls in place. Then we go into the summer and through into the fall, where we are doing, again, review of the work we did. And in the year-end phase, which is that second major phase, we look through the year-end numbers of the district as a whole. And then the last phase is our reporting. And so we're compiling the audit report and the deliverables and providing that to the district's board, to the state controller's office, to the California Department of Ed, and to the County Office of Education.
I think one of the things that we want to point out here to the public is that we're considered a fiscally independent school district, which means that all of our finances do not run through the County Office of Education. You typically see that in a lot of larger school districts. So here in our area, San Ramon, West Contra Costa Unified, and then ourselves, we're all fiscally independent. It also means that we have an internal auditor. So we have a gentleman that works for us. His name is Isaac Williams. I know that you know Isaac really well because you guys are on speed dial with each other, but really you work throughout the year to make sure that all of our processes are exactly the way the state expects them and the federal government expects them, correct?
Yeah, I mean, that's really the intent of our having this, I call it year-end audit process, is to be able to get in front of those challenges and to help you make sure that you're on track.
And I know during the year, boy, there are questions that come up left and right, especially with regards to a lot of the one-time dollars that we've received through COVID since all of that started about 2 years ago. And I know that you've been gracious enough to even take meetings on weekends and late into the evening to try to answer our questions, because sometimes things are really clear and sometimes they're really unclear. But I want to make sure that everybody knows that we've got a great working relationship with you and your team, and you're constantly available to be able to answer our questions so that we can be proactive in what we're doing rather than reactive and trying to fix things on the back end.
Yeah, I mean, that's what makes the process successful, right?
Absolutely. So just out of curiosity, like what programs do you audit and what types of things do you ask different people in our district about documentation that you then come in and take a look at?
Yeah, so I mean, as far as what groups within the district we are conversing with and meeting with, it's really across all fronts, right? So we're looking at site level personnel for attendance testing. We're looking at, say, for example, the nutrition department when we have to audit the cafeteria and other federal dollars that come from food services, special education, obviously in the business services department as well, when we're looking at year-end numbers, and really all kind of elements get covered. From this federal compliance side, this last year, as you mentioned, one-time dollars, we had two, what we would call major programs that we were required to audit. And so that's the Coronavirus Relief Fund and the ESSER funds, or part of the Education Stabilization Fund. And those are dollars that came through the CARES Act and through the American Rescue Plan, or ARP. And so those were new dollars. There were new requirements about how they were supposed to be expended. And as you mentioned, we had those conversations throughout the year about what was the best, what were their allowable uses. And so those were required to be audited. And then on the state compliance side, because the districts in California, they've got a lot of different requirements in the education code, and there's almost 24 separate state compliance areas that we audit, in anywhere from continuance of kindergarten, continuation education, independent study. Obviously, I mentioned the attendance side. If you've got charter school activity that's involved in the district, then we have to audit that as well from a state compliance perspective. So there's a lot of different kind of pieces that we touch and places in the district that we can interact with.
Yeah. So in other words, we keep you all really busy.
Yes.
And what would you say with regards to our audit this year? What were some of the conclusions? And then if you could just explain what a finding is and whether you found any.
Sure. So a finding is if we have either an audit difference or a compliance item that either the district didn't comply with, or something wasn't, the control process wasn't in place correctly to be able to define compliance correctly. And so when we have a finding, there's a section in the audit report that has to include specific elements, and we work with management to establish an understanding that we all agree that it is a finding, and then we have to disclose it. In this year, there were no findings that we had to report, I'm thankful to say, but the findings can sometimes impact what we call our audit opinions. This year we had what's called unmodified opinions, or clean opinions. So those are the highest level of assurance that you're looking to achieve out of an audit. And so, the best result you can look for. And so we were able to do that. I think it really went to, management's efforts with providing us what we needed with like the internal audit department and all the other departments that were coordinated through that. And we gave those unmodified or clean opinions. So, and that really related to not only the district audit, the financial statements, but also that federal compliance that I mentioned and the state compliance as well.
And I just want to say it really is a testament to the fact that we have a lot of individuals in our district that are working under specific rules, and really your audit comes in and it checks whether people are following those rules and whether money is being spent appropriately. And, that's from office staff recording and double checking attendance, to teachers filing attendance, all the way up to departments and the work that they do, whether it's the fiscal department or whether sometimes it's purchasing, maintenance, operation, facilities. I mean, all those things are encompassed. Food and nutrition is certainly a big program. I know we've got adult education, we've got English learners, and a lot of those really fall under that umbrella of a lot of the federal work also. So, in a nutshell, the results that we received this year, we're certainly very pleased with. Of course, I'm always from the opinion that if there's a finding, it's an opportunity to get better. But this year we didn't have any findings. And we know that because you're here year round, if there are errors that we're making, you would certainly be able to pick up on those. So just want to say thank you on behalf of the district for the work that you do with us and for being here today to answer questions.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. And anybody out there, if you've got additional questions that you would like to see covered in a future episode of Ask the CBO, please just send those to cbo@mdusd.org. We'll see you next week.